Konnichiwa, welcome to the Martial Maze. I'm without my partner in crime, Barakalach Doshi, but ladies and gentlemen, I have a guest with us today, a four-time an Olympian and holds a silver medal in the Olympic Games. He's coached in the Olympics as well, and also has a brown in the world, if I have that correctly. And I'm speaking to none other than Jason Moore Sensei. How you doing, sir? Konnichiwa, welcome to the Martial Maze.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
All right, so let's first start off. So went to the seminar. I've actually been up to your place a handful of times. Actually, the Morris Cup, because that's your tournament. And I got to tell you, it was kind of blown away. You and your wife were kind of like y'all were in your world. So let's start there. So again, thank you for coming to Western Massachusetts, because that was pretty great. So I mean, how's everything?
Everything's great. I was fortunate to have my family join me at that clinic because it was only about an hour and 50 minutes from Glendale, New York. So we packed into the car and went. We got to see Mickey, of course, and John, who are my relatives, Terry's sister, and you got to witness Terry's expert choke, and
Yes.
that was a great brusher up for myself as well. But it was a lot of fun, and that's a nice dojo that those guys have there.
Yeah, yes, they do.
Kuma Judo, right?
Yes, Kuma Judo Club. It was a confession. So for the longest time, we thought we were the only judo club in the area, and one of my students, Joe, who trains out of Kuma, was like, "No, there's another school. It's over here." And I was like, "What?"
And
But
apparently they've been there for
that longer than us.
years.
Yeah, apparently it was just one of them things. We got to do better in the judo community. You touch base on it when doing the Q&A at the seminar, but we really do in the judo community. We have to start doing better with getting judo out there and really promoting judo, and not just not being so, I guess, segregated, if I can actually use that term, because it's really doing us a disservice. It really is.
It's easy to complain, right?
Yeah.
But to be active, to create things is work. That's why most people settle on the complaining side.
I agree.
Leave the activity and creation for someone else because it's work. And a lot of times when you're developing things, whatever it is, there's no pay. So, and I understand in general where if that's not your business, that judo falls in the complaining side. It's like, we should do this, we should do that, and then you go on about your life. But like you just said, I like the way you pointed it, including myself. We all need to do better communication to get the word out, because the word judo itself it used to be the only art around. Now we're in the bottom of the barrel. I mean, the word judo isn't known anymore. And that's due to us.
Yeah, don't know. I was gonna say, we have experienced a huge influx of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu players coming into judo, clearly because it comes from judo, but that's a topic for another time. It's an argument for another time. But we most of us cross-train. I know I do. There's a handful of others that have been training for a very long time in judo that cross-train, because for us it's just judo newaza, and just being more collegiate heavy. So that would be more kosen, if I have that correct. However, you're absolutely right. Just talking about that briefly at the seminar, and then I had time to really meditate on it, especially a long ride home to Worcester, and really start thinking, what do you think we can do? I mean, like, again, we know it takes work, right? But there's a handful of us that really don't mind putting in the work. You know what I mean? Myself included in that. We don't mind putting in the work. We don't mind the reaching out. We don't mind doing the legwork. And we know there's not going to be any real pay here. This is not a huge payday. We do it as a labor of love. What do you think we could be doing better?
Well, this is a start. What we're doing right now. You're taking time out of your day. I'm taking time out of my day to just throw around some ideas, ask those questions, and that's where the communication comes into play, where more of us are having these conversations. What can we do? Everyone loves to sit in the chair at the Olympics or at the Worlds or be at the high level and just be in the venue when the big stuff is happening, but the work is how do we figure out how to create more dojos and fill them.
Mm.
That part's simple, not the application of it, but the concept. The numbers in our sport is just way too small. So this is the start. You just keep talking and talking about how do we do that. And this little podcast or little big, however,
It's all right.
I don't mean to say little. I'm just saying compared to Joe Rogan, I'm sure it's little, right?
Well, so here's the thing. Yeah, we can't touch a Joe Rogan. We'd have to spend all our time talking about MMA and stuff that would get us canceled.
Right,
So,
right.
I'm
But my
like,
point is that that's great that we're willing to start with that and continued with everybody that we are in contact with to come up with ideas and ways to get people to know what the sport is, right? The name, the word has to be known because everyone knows what wrestling is, right?
yes.
So when Jane and Joe have their little kid, oh, what are we gonna do? Oh, I wrestled in high school, or I played t-ball. Oh, it was fun. Oh, I played soccer. So it's in the culture, right? These words, and now the jiu-jitsu, or mainly BJJ, is coming into the vernacular more. Taekwondo, karate, and that started coming in with the Bruce Lee thing way in the early 70s, right?
Hmm.
That was kind of the start of the decline of the word judo, because judo was the only game in town, but we didn't do enough, clearly, everyone, to keep promoting and come up with ideas to continue to, because we were healthy then. No one. I mean, if you look at the NFL and the NBA, they're always coming up with ideas at their healthiest to grow. You can't wait until you're dying, because then you're dying.
Yeah.
So just these conversations are, I mean, because none of us have one answer, because it's so low at this point. No one's looking for judo. If they find judo, it's because of a relative, or they stumble across a throw or something cool in grappling, or some wrestler that wants to improve their throws, and they fall in love with judo. It's not really people looking for, at least in my experience over here at the Jason Morris Judo Center, people aren't walking in the door like, oh, I want a judo, right? It's usually some other, or sometimes they don't even know what judo is.
Yeah, listen, I can't tell you enough how many times I get folks that'll walk into my place because they'll see the advertisements and they'll walk in and well, I want my child to learn karate. And I go, okay, that's great, but you walked into a judo jujitsu school, right? Oh, what's that? All right. Well, I just want my child to learn martial arts, and all right. So I need you to kind of Google what good judo is. I'm like, because it sells itself, and it really does. It sells itself. If I can get you to walk in the door, it's gonna sell itself. I don't need to like, whoa, this is the benefits of judo. No, don't need to do any of that. That's a byproduct that'll come in as you train. And that part's the easy part. What I've struggled with is just what you're saying right now, is having folks walk in the door looking for anything but judo. And then sometimes they stay, sometimes they go. You know what I'm saying? But it's just bananas. How many folks, that's kind of one of the many reasons why we do the show. It's because, again, there are a lot of folk out there that just aren't educated. They don't know. And it's not willful ignorance, it's just ignorance and stuff. And we kind of bring it out there.
Another great line. And ignorance is not a bad thing, right? Ignorance, the word itself, is just ignorance. I don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. It's no one's fault that they don't know. Whose fault is it? Us.
No, I take that out. Yeah.
I take it on just like everyone else. We have to do better, just like you said. It starts with stuff like this, where we might come up with an idea, just back and forth. I talk to a few of my judo friends all the time, and we're talking judo just like this. And sometimes we come up with these great ideas just from going over old times, discussing throws, this, that, the other thing, this guy's personality. And they're like, oh, whoa, maybe we could do that. And then boom, we have a new idea. So, and not necessarily all about, getting people in the door, but keeping kids' interest once they're in the door,
Mhm.
which is an issue in any sport, any activity. Consistency is difficult. That's another conversation.
Yeah, no, it really is. Yeah, and and understanding that parents, well, I also say that parents are different than they were back in the day. That's something I've come across where when I was training, my my mom, I was allowed to do one thing and then another thing with it. You know what I'm saying? But so martial arts was always a constant with me. There was never really any break. When I was swimming on the swim team, it was still training. The only difference was is instead of going to karate class 5 days a week, karate class was 3 days a week, and I trained swimming 2 days a week. You know what I'm saying and stuff like. And when I wrestled, it was the same thing. Even though wrestling was during wrestling season, it was every day. But I was doing double duty. I mean, but that was back when. And again, I bring it back to parents because that's where we learn from. Where you have a parent who's, even though, believe it or not, I fought, I've done all these things in martial arts, and my mother has never, well, God rest her soul, she passed away a couple of years back, but never saw me fight. She saw videos, but she never been to any of my fights, ever, and stuff. But she always supported.
When did you start
So.
swimming?
Swimming was, I went to his paramilitary, I hate saying that right there. I'm not doing the camp, but gets the disservice by saying it. So I went to an all black camp called Camp Atwater. I couldn't swim and I kept skipping swimming. I think I was 6 or 7 years old. So they made me learn to swim. And when they did, I fell in love with it. Like almost like the martial arts, I needed to swim. And after that, my best was my butterfly. But yeah, I just fell in love with swimming, and my mother fed me to that kind of I guess I'd like to liken it to a lust. I needed to be in water, and we had this park when I go to my dad in Hartford, Pope Park, which allowed for us to swim. And like you could swim all during the summer months, and then there was an indoor place back in Springfield, Mass, that we used to go to swim. So.
Swimming and judo, the two things, in my opinion, that every kid needs to spend a couple years doing, regardless of Olympic aspirations or athlete aspirations, because those are the two life skills that'll get you through all the other sports and
Yeah.
life itself. You
Yes.
gotta learn how to
Yes.
swim so you don't drown.
Exactly.
You gotta learn how to do judo so you can learn how to fall and protect yourself.
I agree. I agree
To a
wholeheartedly.
degree, right? You don't have to be amazing at it, but it teaches body awareness. It teaches so much, and that's probably a good start and a selling point. Not that many dojos haven't already used that angle, but promoting that actively, that judo is an absolute must life skill, just like,
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree.
because you can tell that I was a swimmer as well, swimming and judo. I went from swimming to judo.
Oh, see, I did not know that about you. I didn't know you did swimming. I knew you did the wrestling. No, I
Well, the
thought, well,
wrestling came way after.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I know. Well, you told us.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Because people are confused sometimes, and why would they? Why wouldn't they be? Right? It would be an assumption that I wrestled, then did judo. I did judo long before I wrestled. Thus, the success in wrestling, because of my style of judo, translates randomly well to no-gi.
Yeah, you know what? I was gonna say that you hit upon a really good point, and it brought me back to the old way of the way though I always call you guys the old boys way of doing judo. And it wasn't so you were talking about grips and catching grips from anywhere and training that way to catch grips from anywhere because you're not always gonna get dominant grip. You're not always gonna get the inside space. Does that mean you quit? Does that mean you pull, get the arm off? You know what I'm saying to try to reestablish grip, or do you just go with what you have? And it reminded me even with how that really translates well into real life. Sometimes you're not going to get that idea. You didn't see the punch coming. I think briefly I said when I was talking to you, I was talking about how I learned judo as a martial art first that had a sport component to it, and that's the way I learned it. So it was really to address real violence, the concept of catching, because it was like so even when we were doing uchikomi was always done with movement, never done static. and you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So you got a better understanding of how to manage your body. Where Tai Sabaki became, I would say, my first year in judo, well, my first year training with Kenny anyway. He didn't allow me to throw at all. It was really all about ukemi. So I was allowed to fit in. I wasn't just allowed to complete and stuff. But I had to learn how to fall. You know, just be able to receive, be able to control my body in the air and stuff. And Tai Sabaki became a huge thing. You know, and why? Because I know it's not common in most judo schools, but we address the Timiwaza. And you know, when I was training with Ken, and even Kudo Sensei always threw in a Timiwaza, so it wasn't just okay if he catches. Well, no, now if he's throwing that haymaker, or now if that kick is coming, you know, how are you addressing this in real time? It's even where I come to the realization that judo was more of a defensive art than it is an offensive art, based upon how you catch Kazushi each time. You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So it was a really, I always say it was a really unique experience growing up in that time. And then the difference when I started actually doing more sport judo, going into competition, how I had to really relearn a lot of bad habits and stuff like that. So I had to learn how to kind of sunfish in the air to land, or actually the importance of knowing how to cartwheel, man. That blew my mind the first time I ever countered I'd say a weak Sewanagi, because if the person had really been thrown with the way they should have, I don't think I could have got that cartwheel off in time.
Hello, this is Israel Lopez, Sensei of the Martial Maze. If you're a fan of our podcast or our YouTube channel, The Martial Maze Presents Modern Combatives, did you know that you could support future episodes on both platforms by becoming a subscriber to our Patreon? Membership entitles you to exclusive Martial Maze content not shared on either the podcast or our YouTube channel, The Martial Maze Presents Modern Combatives, as well as limited edition only available to our Patreon subscribers merchandise. That's exclusive stuff, y'all. Where there are 3 different tiers to choose from: bronze, silver, or gold memberships, gold being the very best. No matter what tier, and to show our appreciation for you, the subscriber, and to celebrate our 4th season of the Martial Maze podcast, we are giving away to one lucky subscriber every month free Martial Maze merchandise. That merchandise is anything that we sell on our Martial Maze page. That's www.martialmaze.com. A new winner will be chosen each month through the duration of 2024. That's our way of sincerely saying thank you. But please keep in mind, you can't win if you're not a subscriber. That's the Martial Maze at Patreon. And once again, thank you for becoming a subscriber, and thank you for listening.
Silver medalist. So she grabbed the silver. Can you kind of recap that real quick? I'm quite sure there are a lot of other folks that have actually regaled the story. So can you do us that service?
The Olympics is fantastic, but you know, judo is like tennis, basketball, anything. There's a tour, right? There's year-round stuff going on. So for us in this world, all tournaments matter.
Okay.
Not to the extent of the Olympics, because that's what everyone knows, right? And the pressure's on for that. And that's, of course, how many identify and validate themselves with how they perform at the Olympics. So my point is that, yeah, that was a fantastic moment, but I've had a lot of fantastic moments in the sport, a lot of fantastic wins on the tour, a lot of fantastic singular wins against certain people, and then a ton of if you ask any of the old timers that have retired what they miss the most, and they'll say the grind, being what we just did, right? Working out, learning, practicing, failing, getting better, being dead, recovering, doing it again the next day, watching film. I mean, all the things that go into all
Making
levels,
you great.
all levels of competition.
Mm-hmm.
Competition is so cool. So to the Olympics, basically what I often say is that Barcelona was like an after effect of Seoul for me. So, and the previous worlds. So I competed in 87, 88, 89, 91, 3 worlds and Olympics. And I was pretty close to top 3, top 5 in the world for all those years, and couldn't break through for whatever reason. Referees, for whatever reason, to that point. So my training to Barcelona was intense, but it was a little more mentally. It's sports is so mental. If you already have a good skill set, you have to be able to control your mental headspace. So what the main difference was, I decided to not focus so much on the result, more on the process, and see how it goes. Even though obviously the goal is to win always, but it was such a business for me before that I was like, you know what, it hasn't happened, and I was defining myself incorrectly by world and Olympic medals. Even though I was competitive, I hadn't got my world or Olympic medal yet, which I was defining myself by, again, incorrectly. So, but at the time when you're in it, you feel like crap. So I was able to get in a better mind space to enjoy the training and then when we went to the Olympics, enjoy some of the activities that go on, some of the sightseeing. I mean, in Barcelona, the Olympic Village was fantastic. It was right on a beach, topless girls, very, very, very pleasing. But I allowed myself to enjoy it a little bit more than in Seoul.
Okay.
And I think that allowed me to relax enough. And I think I performed better in previous years, but I had been smarter. And again, I was in a better headspace. So I was able to do what I did. I think mainly because of that. And then moving forward was a better mindset.
All right. Well, I'm digging that, man. I like how you're really driving the point home. It wasn't that those typical games don't define you, don't define your career, if you will. Yeah, because I'm about
It
to
took me a
say
long time to learn that.
all the videos and things I've seen of you were a beast back in the day. I remember you fighting at like 170, 160 in that area and stuff like that.
My weight class was 78 kilos, which translates to about 172.
Yeah, yeah, about to say. I mean, that's a really competitive weight class too. I mean, I have the benefit of being in the heavy boys. Well, that's not really true. There are a lot more heavy boys out there than anything else.
Listen, in the world, all the weight classes are super strong. It's the pros. It's the world. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 81 or 81 now, 78 then. Can be very deep simply because a lot of people are that size. So the division sometimes is more filled with more better players. I don't know if that's right. More better. I don't think that's right, but
No, listen, it's the division I don't want to be in.
but at the world stage, it really doesn't matter. All the divisions are extremely strong, and you could argue depth versus like superstardom. Like if you like heavyweights, right? It's not super deep, but no one can beat Teddy Reiner. So does that make that weight class the toughest? Or
Yeah, different. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I hear you.
so there's all kinds of ways to look at it.
Yes. Like I said, pound for poundage. I don't know. Me personally, especially looking at highlights and stuff like that. 'Cause I get the Monday night quarterback it now. Watching the highlights, and I'm like, that's just one hell of a competitive division. And you were a beast, bro. I'm like, you really were. Not saying that you're not now. I'm just saying. Back in the day, you a bit of a monster. I don't know. You were boogeymaning on people. I'm just throwing that out there to you. Maybe you already knew that. Who knows? But so, all right. You're also the inventor of the sticker. Did I say that right? Because I do not want you to jump through this thing and smack me upside the head. If I get it right. Which, you know what? I'm going to tell you what. I mean, like I got the catching it from the front. I thought that was an amazing thing. So it's I don't even know how to describe it because if what to classify it as a sticky Diashi head. I don't even
Yeah,
how do yeah I'm like I don't
something like
but
that.
but the mechanic and the way you catch it, especially from the front, it shouldn't work, but it does. Like that, I was baffled over the weekend, like flabbergastedly baffled. I just made up a word.
So in general, I mean, it came about because I had good footwork already, but creating, like you just said, from the front, catching both legs for the Jiashibarai consistently. I mean, that's really tough to get anybody off their feet like that. You
Yeah,
see very few of those on the tour, and they're gorgeous when they happen. But the front sticker, basically the walkback sticker, I call it. You don't have to have that. You don't have to catch both feet, right? Remember, like I showed you
yeah,
guys, you
yes,
just have to catch that front foot off to the side. You grab it like a cup, right, and then you just drag it across. And with the proper hand movements, you can get your opponent to the ground. And maybe it's not as pretty, but effective, right?
yes. And ultimately, that's where it is. It's making sure that it's effective. Not it doesn't need to look pretty. All
Right.
fighting doesn't look pretty. You know what I'm
No,
saying? Not real fighting anyway. It never looks pretty. It doesn't film well. I'm speaking from experience. What as a coach? So again, it's not just your career. I mean, your career is also defined. And I always look at it this way, and I've said this in the past. For those who are new to the show, I do talk about this often. That when I walk into a place, it's not you I look at, it's your students I look at, because your students are the best representation of the knowledge that you're being put forth, that you are continuing on. It's no good that you're 5 million, world champion all over the place, but your students can't fight their way out of a paper bag. You know what I'm saying? So you turn out champions pound for poundage, right? I mean, that's one of the things that's why folks, just Jason Morris, not just your career, but you're battle tested. I mean, your students do a thing. In fact, we met one of your guys over the weekend. He's on his way to what, the Worlds or national?
no. He's nationals.
Nationals, excuse me, nationals
He's
and
a, he's
stuff
a,
like.
he's a young guy.
And so, and I know that you've had other folk that have trained out of your place. Travis Stevens being one of them. There's Kyle. I always forget Kyle's last name. He went to the Olympics as well.
Basketball.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and stuff like a great guy, and stuff. Nice old Ujigari. But yeah, so talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, what does it take to be for those, especially with continuing education, to be a better coach? Oh, give us a little advice, little nuggets, if you will.
Great question. One is consistency, right? If you're actually trying to be a better coach, and then depending on what you're trying to do, are you trying to run a practice? Are you trying to develop? Are you trying to make local, regional, national champions? Are you looking to go all the way and possibly send them to the Jason Morris Judo Center? Because I mean, we're kind of like what I would like to call it like a finishing school. Like
Hmm.
if you get to a certain level, you can't. This is just like high school, right? You go from high school to college. You go to the next level. You from college to the pros. So you go from your club to the pros, basically. Uh, Depending on what you're trying to do, right? And the main thing is what we said early on is get people in your dojo. You got to be a promoter more than
Yep.
a coach, really, to start with. And then as you develop, so the advice is consistency. Got to be in the dojo, and then you have to be willing to learn.
Hmm.
I'm still learning. One of my best friends and former teammate, Coach Steve Cohen, we talk every day. We're still learning. I mean, he's in his 60s and I'm late 50s, and I'm still learning. I'm a better coach today than I was 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And simply because I stay on top of the game, and I had a game, developed game, and continually develop, because not only are the rules always changing, the techniques are changing, the strategies are changing. I mean, you guys stay up with the game. Just like some people complain, although I don't agree, that Bill Belichick, the time has passed him by, right?
Hmm.
I could not disagree with that more. I'm all about, I mean, the guy set up a program, and that's a whole nother conversation, but there is complaints. So the world can pass you by if you stay basically in your lane, what you learned. And most dojo owners aren't Mike Swain or Nicholas Gill or Kosei Inoue. Most dojo owners are, regular guys who love the sport, just like all the high school wrestling coaches, right? They're just high school wrestling guys or JV wrestling guys, but that doesn't stop them from learning.
Yes.
Right? Learning the techniques, learning different ways to do things, but adding to yourself, because we're not all amazing, perfect as competitors. So what makes us think that we could just all of a sudden be good coaches? You got to keep your toolbox growing.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I had no idea how to do sankaku properly, reverse sankaku.
Okay.
As a player, learned it after, and all my kids do it and win with it all the way till today. In fact, I have a buddy of mine who showed it to us, this guy named JP Canteen. He's a Canadian guy, friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
also an Olympian, but he was an expert at that. So what do? Bring him down, fill that hole for us, learned a whole sankaku series. That's not just today. I learned this in 96, basically after my first retirement, because I knew as a coach, I wanted my kids to be good on the ground.
Yeah.
I was a juji guy. I was very good at juji, but why would I try to mash together sankaku when I didn't know it very well? I brought in the expert. He showed it to me. I did it a million times myself. And now my kids do it. So as a coach, you have to be you have to shelve your ego, and we're men.
Yeah.
We are ridiculously egotistical, and we're very sensitive. Not me, but we're very sensitive and proud, getting proud. So we often see not knowing something as failure or as I'm less than you. That's not true. There's a million things that Israel, you can do better than me. I'm okay with that. Right? You're not as good at judo as me. You got to be okay with that. And if you want to get better, I'll help you. If I want to get better at this podcasting thing, I'll talk to you, right? You got to show, and I'm sure that, we don't know each other that well, but the point is you got to be okay with accepting where you are. It's okay to have a little delusion. We all think we're a little better than we are. I avoid the mirror often because I still think I'm 78 kilos. But reality is reality. I'm 57 and I'm not shredded anymore. It's okay. It's okay to accept reality on occasion, but it's okay. And it's also okay to have a little delusion. That's what drives us, right? To think we're a little better than we are, but you can't be so set in your ways that you won't grow, right?
Yeah.
That's the age-old business thing. If you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that you see it too in all the coaching. I'm not just talking about judo, all coaches, right? If they aren't growing and getting better, they're dying. And it shows in their kids, because the kids don't learn other than what the guy knows.
Yes.
And they don't seek. And a lot of times, I don't know if you've had this experience, but in general, there's this concept, which is crazy, because in all other sports, there's a graduation process. But in judo, they keep their kids like this. They don't want to let them go train anywhere else, right? Because in general, there's a fear of maybe losing them, or the fear that they're shown that they don't know everything, that's also silly. It's like when you're a parent, you're Superman to your kid when they're 5, but when they're 15, you're 0.
Konnichiwa. I'm Israel Lopez, sensei of the martial maze. Right now, you might be asking yourself, what is the martial maze? Well, I'm here to tell you. The Martial Maze is a martial arts podcast that deals with the complexities and pitfalls that one encounters when navigating the field of study that is martial arts. These discussions are from the points of view of actual martial artists, and we cover it all, with the occasional special guest, who of course are masters in their fields of study. From the president of the United States Judo Association to karate and kung fu royalty. Myself and Barakulat Shidoshi have over 40 plus years of martial experience. So please join us as we make our way through the martial maze. New episodes drop weekly, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Which is, I always thought that was really uniquely weird for judo, just touching base on that, because in judo we're not called senseis, typically. We're typically called coaches. So where I could see somebody getting stuck with that, like that mindset as sensei, because that's a title that's given, not just, you don't just make yourself sensei. Where, well, that's true. That's the truth of it. And it's not
You ever
something
watch the show? You ever watch the show Frasier?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hello. I did actually, oddly enough, side thing before you get to that real quick. I ended up teaching, I can't think of his name, Miles Crane. I ended up teaching him judo for the episode of Julia, chocolate souffle. David High Pierce. Yeah. I
No
taught him.
way.
Yeah. Koshiguroma for that episode. Yeah.
Wait, for a Frasier episode?
No, not Frasier, for Julia. There was a show on HBO called Julia. It was on the cook, the Julia Childs. And her husband was I think a sandan in judo. And
Shut up.
so so they recreated. Actually, Mickey actually helped a lot for that. She ended up sending me the things to make sure the kanji was correct and stuff like that. So when
Did
they
you even know who
recreated
David Hyde Pierce was?
yeah, oh yeah, I knew who he was. I'm like,
Not you, her.
I don't know, but I was starstruck.
Okay, sorry, we're going off the track here.
Oh
But
yeah, I'm sorry.
how did you meet? Or how did you even know of David Hyde Pierce?
So actually, it was a friend of a friend who works with another gentleman that does stunts, and they were looking for a judo person, and so my buddy said, "Oh, I know a great judo guy," and he called me up, and so they looked at my headshots, but then they were like, "Oh, well, we'll have you be thrown," and I was like, "I don't think you guys realize how big I actually am." I'm like, so I walk in, and they're like, "Oh no, that's not gonna work out," but we'll pay you as a consultant. So I got the ZAG rate for the episode, which was really great. And I got the film credit, and stuff.
Did you get a photo with him? Are you allowed to do that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, this was during COVID, so like when he walked in, he's such a very small man, and in real life, like very, I would say dainty, and that's paying him a huge credit. Like it's not to discredit, he's just very small, as where he was going to get hurt the whole time and stuff like that. So we originally started off with Sewanagi, and we graduated to Koshiguroma because it was just kind of like, okay, let's just get it here, and it's just a little easier to catch this Koshiguroma than the concept of a Sewanagi, which seems kind of weird, right? So there's one's in the second kill, one's in the first kill. It's just one of those weird things. But he was great. He was such a sweetheart, though. He was great.
You know he's from Saratoga,
no, I did not know that.
New York.
Yeah, no, I did not know
Originally
that.
from up here.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, he was great though.
Where'd you guys do that filming?
That was done in Boston, Mass. Well, right outside of Boston at the. I didn't even know there was a big production studio there, but apparently they film a lot of things out there and stuff like that. So, yeah,
That
it
is
was.
so cool. Now we flipped the script. I'm a fan of you.
No, that was
I'm a huge Frasier fan. Huge.
Same here, man. I'm like, yeah, I could talk Frasier all day. So I was a super fan, so it was really hard not being starstruck. And then, oddly enough, is the woman who played Lilith in the show Cheers and was on set because she was in the same show. So I ended up getting to meet her very briefly. It was just kind of like, I didn't realize it was her until somebody said, "Hey, do you know who that is?" And I was like,
Oh, that's so awesome. She's amazing.
"Yeah." So no, that was
She's
pretty
tiny
cool.
as well.
Yes, but not as small as no. Yeah.
Really, Dave was smaller?
Yeah. Yeah, he was yeah. So I will share that. I can share those photos with you off air though.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right,
I
so
forgot what we're
circling.
talking about.
Yeah, sorry about that. Circling back. Yeah, geez, I'm so sorry. That was just a blind segue and yes, I forgot what we were talking about. I didn't mean to do that, sir. It's just something that happens. Normally with my co-host on the show, he normally keeps us kind of where we're supposed to
He's
be.
the on track guy.
Yeah, and stuff because I have a tendency to segue as all martial artists do. Anyway, sorry about that. So circling back, we were
Oh, you were
discussing
talking about
sensei, the
coaches.
titles, yes, the coaches. So I always thought it was funny because sensei, I can see someone getting in their headspace because teachers are supposed to be all knowing, right? Right. That's what we typically when we see a teacher, father, teacher, no matter how you want to look at that. But as a coach, to not be open to growing. It's just counterproductive. You're a coach for crying out loud. We have continuing education all the time if you're a coach, right? If you're wrestling, you're constantly learning just what you just said. You're constantly dealing with the new rules. In judo, we constantly dealing with new rules, new ways to catch an attack. Remember when they outlawed katagaroma? Overnight, there came different versions of katagaroma, so
Mhm.
we can catch it without grabbing the and then even with the I want to say it was Koreans who
Oh, the
came up
Korean
with
Seanagi
yeah
thing.
with the single arms. They were just doing a single arm attack, right? I mean, they were kind of famous for it because they couldn't get the other, and they got better at it. So they start, and then we had to adjust with that. Then they had the pistol grip. Then they took the pistol grip out. Then they brought the pistol grip back, but not only for so many seconds. Twice removed on its sister side. Like so. We're continuing with that kind of education where it just seems counterproductive to call myself a coach and not be willing to let my students grow, send them out other places. The one crazy cool thing about judo is sewanagi no matter where you go.
Hmm.
Now, there might be different ways to catch it, but it's no matter what like that. That's one of the things about judo that I love the best is the Gokin Owaza is pretty black and white. you know, you can find new ways of catching something, but ultimately we all start off with the same information. Migi kumikata, you know what I mean. Your break uki's balance to the right. Like all of these things happen systematically, and then we have our different ways of catching it. And then some coaches are better than others. There's better. There's a gentleman I do. Sometimes he's a guest on the show a lot. Haskins Sensei. He is a better lyricist than I'll ever be. He can communicate better he has a better grasp of the English language. I did that. But so he, oh, I'm just not doing a disservice right now. See, right now, where he can articulate every point of a technique from beginning to end in such a way where one gets it. You know what I'm saying? Where I struggle with that sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I get tongue tied or I start focusing more on the motion and and all these other things. So I just think that any coach out there that doesn't understand that this is part of Jute Kyuri, right? This is you and I shining together, right? Our mutual benefit, right? And well-being, that we need to be sharing. We need to be getting making sure the students are always out of their comfort zone. Also, it grows community. Yeah, yeah. I just say that's hoot nanny.
No, everything you said is exactly right. But I'll go back to the even if you don't want to admit it, not you or me personally, just in general, ego is just insane. The ego thing and the acceptance of help from others. So I can claim that I made this player. I got a player, and then I did it. But we all know that it takes a village to
Yes.
raise a kid. It's the same thing with an athlete. They touch so many people, and you talk to any athlete, and there is hundreds, if not thousands, of people, if they think about it, that were integral in their development, whether that they were specifically their coach situation or some teammate or some player or some player that they watched, some competitor that you learn. I mean, I owe thousands of people for my game.
Mhm.
It wasn't, and I could go through it, if I'm thinking, and people don't even know that they helped me because you're watching, right? I mean, so that's a silly, but it's real. It's very real, and being able to look at yourself in the mirror and accept you're not the be all of all. We're not. None of us are perfect. We all can learn.
Yes.
And then the bottom line is, if look, I understand this is a business as well with the students thing, but in my opinion, you grow more. So I lose a few students to other places. Okay, but I'll grow because I don't hold my people in, right? And if those people are successful somewhere else, fantastic. That means I was the gateway to getting them good,
Yes.
right? Travis Stevens started somewhere else. He had a skill set. I added to the skill set. He moved on to somewhere else, but I'm still part of him. It doesn't, whether he likes it or not, he spent a lot of time with us, and we're part of that.
Yes.
And he ended up very successful. So the point is that you can't. I mean, you can care and cut yourself up, but you're being very shallow and short-sighted if you're not able to accept being a piece as opposed to being in your mind, because you're always just a piece. No one's runs the show completely anyways. We think that because we're our human brain is very difficult to open up and see huge concepts anyways. We're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd rather be a piece of Travis's Olympic silver medal. Maybe he doesn't get it if he stays with me the whole time. Of course, my ego says I could have done better, but I didn't. He did what he did. I have a piece of that. But
No, that makes sense.
and then the USA Judo community wins because he had a successful career. So that helps spread the sport too. So, I mean, it's greater good. All right, he's not my student, but he was a piece of us, right? That's fine. I'd rather, and that's why I get players that come to us, and a lot of times their coaches or their original programs are upset that they're moving on, but they would have quit judo. I mean, there's a limit you can go to in a Y program.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, ultimately, look, I've never been to the Olympics. So how am I going to get a player ready for the Olympics? That just doesn't make any sense. I've never been to Worlds. So how am I going to get a player ready for Worlds? No, if you really care about the player as much as you claim to, right? You'd
Right.
be looking
That's
to
a
give
good
them
point.
off. You know what I'm saying, and stuff. You'd be willing. I mean, we all know. I think I've always thought in a local level, we always know. We hope that was the whole point back in the day. We hope that we're able to be able to say, well, I sent one of my kids to Jason Morris's, or I sent one of my kids to, or this guy started with us here but now look at him, look at where he's gone.
For some reason in judo in this country, we were, and maybe just because because it doesn't exist like that in schools. The wrestling coach knows you have them until they're 18.
Yes.
They're going on and they're excited when they go to a D1 college. Yeah, we put him in North Carolina.
Yes.
Right? Oh, he's at Iowa. Oh, he's at Syracuse. So why isn't it the same way here? Excuse me, and judo, and that is baffling to me. And I will tell you, because there's part of it that the sport is so small that there's not a ton of sports people in judo. So maybe they don't understand those concepts that you can just go from your Y program to the Olympics. That's never happened. It can happen. You have to go where the training is. Simple.
Well, I think some of that has more to do with the fact that judo masquerades. Judo's not sure where it wants to be. Judo's not sure if it's a martial art or if it's a sport, and it's kind of it's in limbo because both are, believe it or not, are practiced two different ways. You know what I'm saying? Or the things that govern one don't govern as well in the other mindset. So when I'm looking at the sport of judo, this is the way I need to train. This is how I need to train players. When I'm looking at the martial art of judo, this is the way I need to cultivate and train, because it's the context in which I'm going to train the specific player in. However, with that being said, though, the founder of judo, to mess with some of my jitsu friends that listen to the show, Kano Jitsu, Jutsu, the maxims or the governing maxims for judo should be put in both places, which kind of should meld them into this one thing. Judo no Kinsei, character. Am I a good person? Am I doing well? Zenyoku Zenyu, maximum efficiency, minimum strength, and which covers the physical. Then you have Jutike, which is mutual benefit. But if you take Judo no Kinsei, I hope I'm saying that right, and you take Jutekyo and you combine them both together, that this you should be able to pull it from the martial art into the sport interchangeably, because these are both things that develop you as a person outside of the physical realm of just doing the judo. Listen, I advocate for judo all the time. It's like, it's the way to be. Or look for the do in judo and
Right,
stuff.
right.
Hey man, making better people, because ultimately not everybody's gonna make it to the worlds. Not everybody's going to the Olympics. But like you said, it's something that takes you with you throughout life. Everyone may deal with violence at some point in their lives. And like with swimming, one of the failures of not knowing how to swim, if you encounter a body of water, is you may drown. Or one of the failures of not knowing how to receive or to fall, you're going to fall at some point in your life. Everybody does. You're going to slip on some ice. Even my own personal story, if not having good ukemi, I would have probably died when the loading dock broke and stuff like that. It felt right off the loading dock. I went, there was a spike that I avoided. Boom. Great ukemi waza. Everybody who saw it said, man, that was a beautiful break fall. Of course, now my neck is made of titanium, but that's besides the point. I would have been dead. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, with that being said, and then even in the countless of real life fights that unfortunately doing a nightclub, running security and stuff like that, where you look, violence finds you, because I'm no longer practicing good self-protection because I'm in that environment. However, with that being said, the judo being a really defensive thing for me, look, there were times where a person hit the ground. I couldn't tell you what I hit him on. You know what I'm saying? In fact, I think the last episode, the episode that just aired recently, before this one, we were talking about, I swear to God, I did not think Ukiyo-toshi was effective. I remember learning it in Nagi no Kata, thinking this would never work in a million years, until sure as shit in real life, guy came at me, and bam, he's on the ground. It was Ukiyo-toshi. And wow, it really worked. Like, oh my goodness. And yeah, anyway, I'm sorry. Outside of, so speaking of which, because I do talk a lot about character, where would you say that we, as coaches, where our mindsets should be about training students with getting that part, the better character part, character development?
I think that comes by example, showing up on time, commitment to your activity, being there for your player. So you're always your door's always open, creating a good example, right? Because everyone comes from different backgrounds, different financial situations. So you've got to show consistency in your leadership to start with. And then, so moving from that, it's what's happening in the dojo, right? You're basically you're sending out the message of good sportsmanship, be a good teammate, be a good person in the dojo. I have a big thing in my dojo that drives me crazy when if a new person comes in and my kids don't instantly go to that person and introduce themselves, welcome them to the dojo. Don't let them sit on the side, because the new guy or girl that comes in, they don't know what they're doing, right? So when we say get a partner, they're always going to be standing off to the side, like they're being led what to do. But
Mhm.
my kids in general will go, "Oh, hi, I'm Nicole. Would you like to be my partner?" Or and not be afraid to work with a beginner. So again, it's example. And then if it doesn't happen, I lose my S.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Listen,
I,
we're not a PG rated show.
okay, well,
Yeah, the,
so I go a little mental when that's not the case. But the kids learn, and then hopefully they pay it forward. They become what I hope to develop here somewhere else, right? So that they might not be perfect with me, but they're going to be perfect outside my dojo, which is that's huge, right? So if you met Kyle and my daughters, and of course Terry,
Mhm.
right? I mean, you're going to have nothing but good things to say about them because their persona in that dojo was ultimate respect. I mean, Terry, of course, she's the leader of our group, so I follow her lead,
Mhm.
and she leads. She's led by example on numerous occasions, and helps create. It filters down right from Terry to me to the dojo.
You know what? I got to tell you, I've heard a lot about your wife over the years. All good things. And so to finally meet her and then living up to that, she was exactly what I thought I was going to meet, and so that was pretty cool all the way around.
Did we say her name?
Terry?
Yeah, I don't know if I said her name. Terry Takamori is my wife.
Taco. Oh no, actually, I don't think we did. Oh man, yeah, because it says also, before we end this up, I, if I have it correctly, you're up for an award this year, a lifetime achievement award. So I can't really say any more than that. I can give you that little nugget, and
Sweet.
I don't know if anybody
I
kind
love
of threw that
awards.
by you. So there's something like that coming your way.
That's why I did it.
Um,
I did it for girls and awards.
I mean, well,
Hey,
you were,
before we cut us out, I mean, let me throw this in here. I want to introduce my tech.
yes.
It's Nicole Stout.
Hi.
She's
Hey, Nicole, don't be shy. Get up in here. Get up in
So
here.
Nicole, this is all mostly her stuff. I provided the room. She provided the technical expert.
Well, she's drinking the
She's a
dunks. That's all
three-time
that matters.
she's a three-time national champion. She's leaving tonight for Vegas. No, not Vegas.
California.
California, Ontario,
California.
California,
Yeah.
to hopefully win her fourth national title, and she's chasing me. I won 6, so she's halfway there.
Okay, that's what we're talking about. Listen, the women in judo have been getting it done. That's all we're gonna say. We love to give the men praises, but wait a minute, Kayla, how many gold medals does she
Oh,
have?
she's two-time Olympic
Yeah,
champion,
two-time Olympic gold medalists. The men have never won one. I'm like,
and I'm one of those losers.
Okay.
I'm just saying. You're Rhonda. I'm like, so the women have always seemed to be getting it done. I mean, I'm just saying, and in judo, there's no excuse either. We can't say, well, the women have a weaker division. No, no, sir. There's some of the baddest women on the planet. So there's that. But yeah, we're gonna.
And one more thing, so we started the show talking off air about a friend of ours, and I want to say how sorry we are to lose Dr. Rob Riley. He was a great friend to my club, and I recently met him maybe 4 years ago, and he just walked through the door, a sweet old man, and just wanted to be a helper guy, and he left us with a little legacy, small. The background here is Rob's green screen. So Rob lives on behind me.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's the head of our school. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't.
Yeah, so that we're really currently mourning the loss. I was trying not to think too much about it because I still well up. This was fresh for us. Um, yeah, man. I mean, he's pretty awesome. He's a stand-up guy. He was very good at articulating his feelings, and he really absolutely loved judo. And yeah, we're gonna be a little emptier without him.
Oh,
So
for sure.
and stuff. So I mean, like, yeah. So I mean, well, I'll keep you off air. I'll keep you informed. Well, obviously, about the arrangements too, and
I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, and stuff like that.
But I want to give him a shout because I mean, how often does a guy like Rob Riley get mentioned in anything? He's a guy that is he's the kind of the guys that you need. He's the guy in the weeds doing the grovel work that none of us want to do. And that's that we need more of that. And I hope to grow up to be something like Rob in the future.
Listen, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. It's not about us. It's about, no, well, not, excuse me, it's not about the individual. It's about us. Again, I would tell you that Rob really was living by the philosophy, Judo, mutual benefit, 1000%. And for those that know me, they know Cindy Judo. They know that's how we roll. It's never, hey, look at me, I'm in the light. It's no. And even if you're a fan of the show, you know that I'm typically the guy behind the camera majority of the time. The actual star of the show is Barakulat Shidoshi, which is kind of funny sometimes. Speaking of which, before I forget, when you're out in California, eat everything because it is so good. I miss the food so much. I really do.
I'll look into that after I make weight.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna get anything Mexican, get it from the food trucks. That's all I'm saying to you.
Sounds
And
good.
be very careful of street meat, because that. All right. With that being said, we are at time. All right. So I was with my guest, the great Jason Morris Sensei. So you can tell the folks goodbye real quick. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me, Israel.
All right, thanks. He's
Bye-bye.
using the government name too. That's what's crazy. There have been no Izzy's at all. It's just Israel.
Oh, I'm sorry. You go by Izzy?
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's all right.
How come we don't go by Real?
What, man? I will come jump through this. I would listen. Don't make me come to
Israel.
New York.
Right, Real.
All right. So see now, and just like that, I'm coming to New York. I'm coming upstate. That's what's happening right now. All right, so I'm without my partner in crime, Barakulat Shidoshi, but you've been listening to The Martial Maze.